One. Welcome to We Talks Facts podcast, the only podcast that we speak facts, only facts, and the real true facts. It's your host, Al Haji. I got the one and only Carter with me, that guy. And today we have our athlete of the week. So our athlete of the week, a very great friend of mine, very great mentor of mine. I still look up to him today for anything I need. Hampton Pirate, great defensive back. I want y'all to give a big shout out to the one and only Chaka Diarrasouba.
Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be on, man.
So Chaka, we are happy to have you today. Like I said, somebody who I've been looking up to. When you told me about your career, definitely look into that and then see that you had a great career starting from Martin Luther King High School, a school in Latonia, if a lot of people don't know, in Georgia. How would you base your success off that? What brought you into playing football? Like made you decide, hey, football is a sport I want to play in college, and starting off with MLK.
Yeah, man. So my journey to football, as I wouldn't say it's unordinary, but to me, I say it's unique. And I say it's unique because growing up, coming from a West African household, American football is really not a sport that our, African parents know of, so especially the earlier generation, you see it a lot more now that the younger generation of African parents kind of know football, but especially like my mom and my dad, they didn't know nothing about that. The only thing they knew was soccer. So, I was blessed to grow up in an environment that was very good. Like I lived in a really good neighborhood, and I had a friend in the neighborhood, and that friend, I would go down to his house, and we would just play video games, man. We would just be playing video games, and then one day when we were playing video games, he said, "I gotta go." I said, "Where you gotta go?" He said, "I gotta go to football practice." He said, "You want to play football?" I said, "Man, I ain't got nothing else to do. Let me give it a shot." So I went back to my house. I told my dad, I said, Sean about to go to football practice, and he asked me if I'm interested in playing. So, I said, yeah, let me do it. So I went out there, man. I ain't know up from down. I didn't know left from right. I didn't know what a football was. But, I was just out there just getting hit around, and as the season, and mind you, I'm like in the fourth grade, so
Mm.
as the season was going on, I wasn't really playing on the games on Saturday because I wasn't really good and I didn't know what to do. But I started to pick up on the game slowly and surely. So I started to understand offense. I started to understand defense. What's the objective of an offense? What offense is trying to do? Score. What defense is trying to do? Stop them from scoring. So I started to pick up on the game. I had the athletic ability. All I had to do was understand the game, and I get the mentality that it takes to play football. Because truthfully, football, you see the hitting, you see the running, you see the jumping. Football is a 90% mental game, mental. So once I understood the mental component of it, once I understood how to play the game, I took a year off. I didn't play football for that next following year. I tried a whole bunch of other different sports. And then I came back, and I was the best player on the team, hands down.
Mm.
I just understood the game now, and I had the mentality. I took that year, and I know it probably sounds a little crazy as young as I was, but I was kind of understanding, trying to get a better understanding and learning the game, and I did that through watching football, through watching highlights on YouTube, through going in the backyard, just running drills by myself. Like I just did these things so I could understand and get myself in a football mentality. And when I was ready, after taking that year off, I went back to my dad. I said, "I want to give it another shot." He thought it was a waste of my time because that first year I wasn't really doing nothing. But I told him, I said, "I want to give it another shot." And then the rest was history, man. I went on from there, and I just went on to play middle school football. Then I went to high school football at MLK. It was a 3-year starter at MLK. And, one thing I'll say about Georgia football is, in my opinion, if not one top 3 footballs in the United States because
Oh yeah.
football is taken very seriously down here. So my school in itself, we had 5 to 10 people going to a Division I program every year. As I was from me being a freshman all the way to my senior year, so I was surrounded by talent. So it wasn't easy to get onto the field. It was difficult to get onto the field. We had people who were successful going into big time FBS programs. So I just learned from them. You know, kind of got where I was at MLK. Was fortunate to be at a school that has such high talent, and then went on to play college football.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a crazy story. I didn't even realize it in that point, but nah, it's really motivating on how you like took the sport to a different genre and you kind of just focused on your primary play on what negative effects you had and how can you make it positively into you becoming the player you were today. So definitely give a shout out to you on that for real too.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Carter, I can't hear you.
My bad. Whenever you were playing in Georgia, did you understand how different Georgia football was compared to other states? Like, did you recognize how elite it was?
you. Not while I was playing Georgia football. When I was in high school, 'cause that's all I knew.
Mm.
However, when I went to college, that's when you kind of see, in general, when you get to college, you see the different athletes from all parts of the United States. Like I said, I went to Hampton University, and Hampton is, in Virginia, which is still considered the South. However, Hampton it's a private school, so it's pulling players from all across the United States. And I was able to play with players from Cali, players from Texas, players from Minnesota, players from Maryland, players from New York. Like I was playing with people from everywhere. And that's when I started to notice that I'm a step ahead of a lot of these guys. And I think it's because, in my personal opinion, the type of football we play down. And that's just the truth about it. Like you would have, because you got to think about it, at an FBS program, at a Division One, or even a Division One AA program, everyone is good. Everyone is good. A lot of people who are at these programs was maybe one or two coaches away from watching their film to being at a FBS program. A lot of the skill players are good. The biggest difference between D1 AA and D1 single A is simply like the trenches, the linemen,
Mm.
the offensive linemen, the defensive linemen. The size and what they can do on those levels are different. But when you get to those skill players, the wide receivers, the defensive backs, the running backs, like it's not really too far off, in my honest opinion. And what we would have is we would have some guys transfer in from those bigger schools. Let's say out of high school they went to a big school and then it didn't work out for them over there, and then they would come down to Hampton, and they wasn't as good as us, or they weren't or it wasn't nothing that was we ain't seen before. We were playing on the same level as them because I show you, like I just mentioned, like in the skill player position, it's not that too much of a difference. But to answer your question specifically, yeah, playing at Hampton and seeing people from all across the United States coming to play at Hampton, I noticed that there was a gap, and I just think like it was the type of football that we played, in high school. Some states don't even have spring ball. Here in Georgia, we got spring ball. We play football almost year round. We got spring ball. We got summer workouts. We got 7-on-7 in the off season. Like we're playing. Now you're seeing some of these things to become more well known and incorporated now. But when I was in high school, we had a lot of people who weren't even playing spring ball, but we playing football year round. So we were just we live and breathe football down here. It's something serious. It's not a joke. It's what we wake up for. It's what we go to sleep for. So I think that we just a step ahead because of how serious we take football down here in the South.
Okay. So, oh no, my drop Carter.
Was there like a moment, because obviously there's levels and there's a leap whenever you take that college leap? What was a moment for you that you just kind of realized, oh, this is getting serious, like this is where it really starts to test you?
Like I said, for me, truthfully, because it wasn't anything physical that made me be like, oh, this is serious. It wasn't anything that was on the field that made me say, oh, this is serious. Maybe the only thing I'll say is, them running backs get bigger on the college level, So you got somebody 230 coming at you full speed. It's different, in high school. But I think mentally, a switch something had to switch for me, a mental thing. I think that you got to understand that you not just playing for the whole university. You playing for your coaches. You playing for they trying to feed their families. How you play determines if they go home and they feed their families and stuff like that, whether they keep a job or not. It's a little different in high school football. Everybody volunteering, it's not as serious. But I think that, when I first got there, we had a conditioning test, and a lot of people didn't pass conditioning tests. We had new coaches like my head coach was brand new. He just came from a different school, came from Winston-Salem State. So, his biggest thing is he was trying to see who really wanted to play football. You know what I'm saying? Who really wants to be a Hampton Pirate. So he was, we was going through a lot of things, conditioning tests, really just trying to see what we can really do. And so when we got into like somewhere mid-camp, the offensive coordinator, coach's name, Coach Taylor, he had a speech for us, man. And that really made me think, like, I say I want to play football. I say I want to be the best. But do I really want to be the best? Do I really want to play football? Is this really for me? Is this something that I just want to do for the remainder of my 4 years and then go on and live my life? Or is this something that I want to devote my life to continue to devote my life to? So I think that really grounding myself in the university and in the college football life and really understanding that this is something different from high school is something that kind of made me have to really think deeply and say, oh man, this is different. Like, I'm not the only person that's good. This wide receiver in front of me was all state. This linebacker next to me was all conference in high school. This quarterback who I'm playing against is a Virginia transfer from University of Virginia, played in the ACC, was a Hampton legend. So you got to come with your best game every day. Like, that's just kind of how it is, when you're playing on the college level. If you want to be the best,
So we all know you went to Hampton University. I mean, you could have went to Norfolk State. I mean, it's Virginia. I'm not sure what other college you had, but like, what made you? Because I like drove around Hampton in Virginia, and like I seen that's a great side to be on. People always talk about, oh, well, you got Hampton, Virginia. It's not like Newport News or Portsmouth or Norfolk. What made you choose Hampton University as like the college to go to? Like, who was like that pushing more into you going there? Was it something that you decided? Was it one of the defensive coordinators, such as Coach Carr or Coach Jennings or Coach Goganius? I'm saying it right?
Yeah, Yanis, yeah.
Yeah, Goganius. So was it one of them, or is it just a decision that you had to make business-wise?
Oh man, so my journey was a little different too on that because coming out of high school, like the summer of my senior year, I committed to the University of Western Kentucky. And I was committed to them. They're in Kentucky, I think they're in the Conference USA now, FBS program. And I was committed to them for several months. And then, I got a call one day. And this is what I tell young players all the time, man. Until you sign your name on that dotted line, them commitments don't really mean nothing. You can say you committed, they can accept your commitment. But until you sign that paper on signing day, they can always change their mind about you. Like I said, I was committed to the University of Western Kentucky, and I was committed to them for a while. And unfortunately, I reached out to them, just to check in, and they kind of broke the news to me that hey, we decided to go in a different direction. We don't really want a younger guy anymore at this safety position that we were recruiting you at. We more so want to go and get a guy from the JUCO, and that was just unfortunate because I envisioned myself playing at Western Kentucky. And that's what I thought that I was going to spend the next 4 years of playing college football. However, God had different plans for me, man. And that's just how it be sometimes. And I think that was an obstacle that I had to go through and I had to learn at a young age. At any point in time, curveballs can be thrown at you. You got to pivot. But, I had a couple of offers. I got a lot of my offers going into my senior year. I had several HBCUs, Southern University, Tennessee State. I had a couple of FBS programs. I had Western Kentucky, like I mentioned. I had Northern Illinois. So I had all these kind of programs, and I had a lot of schools who were looking at me heavily, too. Maybe they didn't offer me, but they were definitely interested. However, I chose Hampton at the end of the day because I took an official visit up there, and the offensive coordinator, he's not necessarily from Georgia. He was the offensive coordinator that recruited me. He coached high school football in Georgia. And that's kind of how he found me at MLK, because he was very familiar with the DeKalb County landscape and, the Georgia football landscape. So he found me over there, and, he really showed me that he really was interested in me, and he wanted me to be the best player that I could be. And when I took my visit up there, man, just seeing the Black culture up there, just seeing the HBCU life, just seeing the camaraderie amongst the players on the team that were already there. It just felt like this was the place I needed to go. After everything that happened in Western Kentucky, I felt like this is where God is calling me to be. And it kind of was to a point where I didn't really. The choice was made for me, and by seeing all those things there, and then just Hampton being known as one of the top prestigious HBCUs in the United States, academically, I knew it would be a good decision for me too. If in the instance football didn't work out, so all those things is kind of what led me to say, I think Hampton University is, the school I wanted to be at, and with the new head coach, who I felt like was really invested in seeing me be successful. I felt like it was a fresh start and an opportunity for me to play early, start early, and get a good opportunity at becoming, the player that I want to be.
So I probably got another question before I let Carter ask his next one. With your time being at Hampton University as a Pirate, how did it shape you as a player in person? Like with your time being there, like how did it better shape you as a player and as the person you are today?
I think it taught me how to be, just being at Hampton in general. Like it was different for me. All my life I've been in Georgia. All my life I've had my parents next to me and right down the street. Living with them, and they've been helping me along the way. Going up there to Virginia and being in Virginia all by myself, essentially not knowing anyone. It was just, it was an opportunity for me to find who I wanted to be as a person, to really figure out who Chaka is. And not only that, it created a sense of I had to be independent. I was very independent. And then now adding in a layer of football, being with a group of people who I've never known in my life, coming from different backgrounds and different walks of life, and coming together and finding similarities in our life and building friendships, all that just kind of formed me into the person I am today. I believe I have a no excuse mentality. I have a life is not going to stop for you. Life is not going to cry for you when things are rough. So you got to pick your stuff up and you just got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. And that's just how it is, man. You take some time, you get yourself together. And ain't nothing wrong with that, but at some point you got to pick yourself up and you got to keep moving. I just think that playing college football at Hampton University, being there at Hampton, those were the type of things that was instilled in me. I just had to figure out how to get it on my own. I had to figure out how to use the people around me who are willing to help me, to support me, and just kind of figure out these things by myself. It just helped me become very independent. It helped me become very, mature quicker than I would have maybe seen myself becoming, honestly.
Most definitely.
All right. So what I was thinking, what did you do? How did you prepare yourself mentally and physically too? But you were talking about mentally earlier, just before you go out on the field, play against these guys that are all conference, all state, whatever. How did you prepare yourself to face that kind of competition?
Man, people think that the game is won on the field. The game is won in the beginning of the week when you're scouting the other team, when you're watching film on the other team, when all these things is being prepared so that when you go on the field, you already know what's going to happen before it's going to happen. And even like before that, if you really want to get deeper in it, if the game is won in the summer, in the off season with the training. So like, but going back to what I used to do in the season, I would watch film and I'll be studying the team, seeing their tendencies, how they line up, what type of formations they prefer to line up in, what type of plays they're running out of these formations, looking at key personnel, identifying key personnel. These are the type of things that I would monitor as I'm watching film. So when I'm on the field and I'm seeing they're coming out in twin set and they have two receivers and number 14 is to the boundary, I already know he's going to run a quick out or he's going to bubble. And I'm triggering on these things already because I already know these things because I've been watching film all week. So I would prepare myself during the week by making sure that I'm doing what I need to do in the film room and studying the things that I need to study so that when I'm on the field, everything would just come naturally to me. That's just kind of how it is. I just be moving purely off of just what I know in my instincts rather than trying to think and contemplate what they may be wanting to do next. So that's just kind of the things that I did, And I used to really be big in praying too, man. Before every game, I would pray, and I would just pray to God that I play the best game that I played each time. You know, that's just how I did it, man. I always tend to do that because I feel like football is important, but you ain't nothing without God, man. It's gonna be
Yeah.
Man, it's awesome to hear you say that because I feel like so many people, especially if they've never played sports, don't realize that it's not a one night thing. It's not a just during practice and that's it. Like it's constant. It's constant development, constant mental growth. So that's awesome that you mentioned that.
Thank you, thank
So your whole college career playing for Hampton, you
you.
played 4 years for Hampton. Who was the toughest opponent that you had faced during your whole college career? It could be a team, like a whole team you played, or it could be that player like a tight end or a running back or even a quarterback. Who was just the toughest opponent or player that you faced your whole college career?
Mm. I don't know. What I noticed is conference play was a little bit more easier for me. Um,
Mm,
when we used to play, usually in the beginning of the season, we'll have out of conference. We'll play teams like Richmond. We'll play teams like Old Dominion. But one year we played University of Ohio. Not Ohio State, but University of Ohio.
mm.
And they were just technically sound, man. They were just clicking on all cylinders. They were clicking on, man. I'm just gonna be honest. And then they had a running back. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like they had a running back like 230, short, stocky, and ran like somebody stole something from him. Crazy, dog. He was running through them holes and just lowering his shoulder, and he was in his way. He was gonna make you feel it, man. So I think that those are the type of plays when we used to play FBS programs. So like I said, we were a D1AA program, and like I said, the biggest differences is the size. The size within the trenches, within even some of the skill players as well. I feel like some of the skill players on my team were as athletic and as good as some of the players on their team as well. But the size thing is that's just the difference between the two levels. And I think that you've seen it, you felt it. You know, you felt it when you were hitting, when you were tackling, when you were, when they were running the ball. You felt it, and you would have to. They would use that to their advantage. So because they know they're bigger, because they know they're stronger, because of the dynamic of their team, they're running the ball. And they're going to keep running it, and they're trying to tire you out. At the end of the day, for some people, you hit them too many times. It don't matter how much you come in. So you keep hitting them. So sooner or later, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to back down and somebody's going to stop them. The person who's running the ball or the person who's coming to make the tackle. So, I think that the University of Ohio was probably, the most difficult team. And that was a tough loss for us. I think we lost pretty bad. But it was an experience, for us to play on that level and play against teams that are on the FBS level and see what they, how they operate and how they function and how they play. It's an experience, especially for individuals who are looking to play on the next level. So,
So to close out, I just have one more question. Advice that you would give to a young player, maybe in the same position as you, just anyone just looking to excel and really to commit to football or any sport. What is that advice?
I would say that the game is evolving, man. And the game is evolving each and every year. What I'm saying about it is like to be good in this generation and be good now is different than to be good back then. People are pouring money and assets and investing in their kids at such a young age, to be, that future player, that great future player. So it's it's going to even be harder for kids, who have those resources and who even doesn't have those resources to be the player that they want to be and be as good as they want to be. So it's going to take 10 times more work. Like you have to determine at a young age, is this what I want? And if this is what I want, am I willing to do everything that it takes to get where I want to get? And that's just consistent. When people are going to parties, you're in the backyard and you're practicing. You're in a weight room and you're lifting weights. People talk about, like, I remember one time we were talking about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, there's stories about how Travis Hunter, people were going to parties and Travis Hunter was working out. Now he was a top number 2 draft pick in this recent draft. Plays both ways in the NFL, something that's literally unheard of. And it's the work, man. You gotta put in the work. You gotta put in the work. You gotta learn the game, and you gotta be humble. And if you instill those 3 things, and you be committed, and you gotta be realistic. You gotta be realistic with what you can do and what you can offer to the game. And if you do those things, I think that you can be successful. But I think the biggest thing is just putting in that work and being consistent. And if you want it bad enough, it'll come to you. That's my advice. Just put in that work, be consistent, stay humble, and just keep going.
Awesome.
So I got like 2 more questions, and I'm gonna probably ask you a question, see if you remember this. So, are you still coaching at Carver High School?
Yeah, so I don't coach full time no more. I used to be. When I coached there for about 3 years. So, but that was a great experience too, because I coached there right after I got out of college.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna ask you on that. Like, how that was the first question. For my last question, and then ask you the question I was gonna ask you. So how was that coaching experience like? Just now leading, playing college football, into coaching young men that's playing high school. How was that experience for you, and the whole standpoint? Like, what were the pros and cons about coaching at a high school level, especially with you playing at that young age?
Yeah, man. I think that I had to learn the game all over again because I learned the game from how Shaka knew the game and how Shaka understood the game. But when you're coaching other people, being a coach. The coaching is no different from teaching. Some of the best coaches, I believe, are great teachers. Because when you're coaching, you're teaching. You're teaching someone how to play the game. You're teaching someone how to do what they need to do. So you have to understand, just like in school, there's different teaching methods when you're trying to get students to understand these math problems. So how I learn is different from how a safety who I'm working with, who's trying to learn how to, get out of his T-step and drive on the comeback, how I did it and how I understood it is a little bit different. So I have to explain it to him in a different way and work with him constantly and just be patient with him. So I think that from coaching, especially like you say, coaching people at such a young age, it's just different, man. You have to be able to work. You have to be patient, and you have to understand that everyone may not be the most athletic, everyone might not be the fastest, but I think the best coaches are the ones who are able to get those kids to be good players. It's easy to get a 5-star kid or a 4-star kid and take credit for what he's doing on the field and saying you're his coach. But when you take that kid who's not a star at all, you take those kids who aren't as athletically gifted, you can teach them the game and just make them become really sound at what they do. That's what shows you a good coach. It was a great experience, man. My first year coaching, I went to the state championship. I couldn't believe it, dog. It was amazing. My first year was Georgia State 3A championship. Unfortunately we lost, but it was a great experience, man. To take a run like that, go deep into the playoffs, and then make it to the championship game was a great experience.
Nah, that was a run. I can't even lie. Like, the fact that y'all even made state first year, you don't see a lot of coaches do that. I mean, definitely that's like a big achievement. And I mean, the last question I did want to ask, before I asked you a question, it was gonna be like a little quiz, see if you remember your stats. So, like, the last question I did want to ask was, with you being at Hampton, what was your most memorable moment? Like, from a game, it could have been practice, it could have been a game, it could have been even a situation where you thought it was just a learning situation. What was your best memorial moment at Hampton, and why?
I would say my sophomore year, man. I think that was my most memorable year, and I feel like that season kind of stuck out to me the most. And I say that because I started my freshman year, and I also started my sophomore year. However, my sophomore year was a little different because I didn't start initially in the beginning of the season. I came off a decent freshman year, and I was hoping, I was looking into my sophomore year as this going to be my breakout year. I got my footing ground. I got my foot right. I got my footing into college football. I feel like I got my head on straight now. I'm going to really take off this year. And unfortunately, I didn't come into the season initially starting. So I had to really grind to get that starting position. But like the fourth, fifth game, I was starting again. And we played Morgan State that year. And when we played Morgan State, I probably had one of the best games of my life, in the college football. I had another good game my senior year against Northwestern. But that game was really good too against Morgan State, man. I had one interception. I broke on the ball. I caught the ball with like one hand, ran down the sideline. Got like 30 yards, and then I was knocked out of bounds. But then on top of that, I had like 10 tackles, 2 tackles. Like I was all over the field, man. It was just like that's when I felt like this game, I'm separating myself from that. I kind of felt like, okay, I'm getting this. And I felt like it was up from there. Unfortunately, I got injured the next year, but that season kind of showed me like you can be the best. Like you can be the best in this conference. You can definitely be all conference and so on and so forth.
And I mean, like you said, like you definitely showed into why you were the best in the conference. I mean, just looking at your stats, you had 58 tackles on the season, 35 unassisted, 25 assisted in your senior season. Had 22 solo tackles alone in your junior season. So like those are stats you don't really see from a lot of defensive players. So like you definitely put the stats up and putting your name as one of the best defensive backs in that whole conference. So definitely like just want to give you a big shout out on that again, because a lot of people, like I said, aren't able to do that. And before we close it out, I do want to kind of ask you a question, see if you know your stats. So on my birthday, it was my 17th birthday. It was my 17th birthday. You had an interception September the 29th. That was my 17th birthday. Can you guess what team you had that interception against?
What year?
2018. You picked it out for 5 yards. It was on my 17th birthday. I turned 17. I don't even remember my 17th birthday, but
Charleston
I know Charleston Southern is correct. I had to just test you in your memory, see if you definitely like. But I usually would ask people about their stats sometimes, and then I had that. Like, so yeah, definitely shout out to you again. Want to give you a big shout out again, Chaka, for everything you've done for football on and off the field, for the people you've inspired, also inspiring me. You don't even got to be about football, but just kind of like being your own person, being yourself, and definitely like just keeping that inspiration with us throughout time. Definitely want to give you a shout out again for a successful career at Hampton University. Or do you got anything to say?
Nah, man, this has been great. I mean, questions have been awesome. Answers have been awesome. You've been awesome, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate y'all, man, having me on here, man. It's really good, talking to y'all, really reminiscing, man. I miss those days, man.
Yeah.
Great time, man. I really appreciate you all having me.
Oh yeah, you got anything to say, Chaka, before you close it out? Anything? Shout out anybody?
Nah, man. Y'all just keep doing your thing, man. I feel like one day this is gonna be something really big, man. When y'all make it, don't forget about me, all right?
Nah, we won't. That's something we won't forget about. You already know. Definitely not gonna forget about you. Even if I gotta send a text out for, you know what I'm saying, I always got your phone number, so definitely locked in on that. But I was definitely just want to say thank you again for giving the time to talk to us today about your experience with football and how it's changed others and the young ones today, and inspirations on people who's watching, people who need to find a way on how can they make their recruitment better, what can they do to become the better player. You are definitely a great example of that. So definitely we just want to thank you again for that. And we Talks Fast podcast closing it out today with our athlete of the week, Chaka. Y'all have a great day today. Peace and farewell. You guys be safe.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.